Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are finally doing my October wrap-up for 2025, and I got through 5 books. Not the 6 that I was hoping for, but I did get through 5, and I'm really proud of myself for that because I've been so busy. But we're going to talk about all of them. I have a 5-star read, I have a 2-star read, I have a nonfiction book, and everything in between. So let's dive right in. First up, Rachel Harrison's Play Nice. Now, I have in-depth reviews in all of the novels that I read here for this month. So if you want more in-depth reviews and to hear me talk about some with spoilers and more of a concrete analysis of what I loved and hated, more so than just the 4 or 5 minutes that I give on every book in these videos, definitely check those out. But I just read this. This is Rachel Harrison's 2025 release. I did get to go to her talk at the Strand bookstore and hear all about her mindset when she was writing this novel, and I am so freaking thrilled with this one. Let's read the inside flap. It's just waiting for you to come home. Cleo Louise Barnes leads a picture-perfect life as a stylist and influencer. But beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not-so-glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Well, not haunted. Possessed. After Cleo's parents' messy divorce, her mother Alex moved Cleo and her sisters into a house occupied by a demon. Or so Alex claimed. That's not what Cleo's sisters remember, or what the courts determined when they stripped her of custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent. She even wrote a book about her experience in the house. After Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house passes to Cleo and her sisters. Where her sisters see childhood trauma, Cleo sees an opportunity for a house-flipping content. Only as the home makeover process begins, Cleo discovers there might be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface and Cleo finally reads her mother's book, the presence in the house becomes more real and more sinister, revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. I think this is my favorite thing that Rachel Harrison has ever written. I loved this book. This is such an easy, fast 5 stars for me. So, here's the big thing for me. I just recently read The Return, which was her debut novel, and I really enjoyed that. And I started really enjoying Rachel Harrison when I first read Cackle, a very millennial, colloquial tone. It always feels like Rachel Harrison is just sitting there telling you a story, and that's what I love about her prose. Except, for almost every novel I have ever read, I really despise the main character. She always writes these really strong female leads that I cannot stand. And for this particular novel, she went out of her way to write somebody who was just insanely vapid and was trying so hard to be unlikable, but her self-awareness and how unlikable she is made me love her as a main character. I loved Cleo. I thought Cleo was the strongest female lead that Rachel has written. She was so determined, she was so self-aware, she was so poignant. Everything about her was fantastic, and I had such a blast reading this story. And it's a really interesting story within a story that's giving you perspectives on different points of Cleo's life, different aspects of Cleo's family, and more importantly, her relationship with her parents and her relationship with her sisters. And the whole kind of point of this novel is some things may look like one thing on the outside, but they're very different deep down in the core. And that's reflected both in the metaphor of the demon within the house, but it is also therefore with Cleo's relationship with every single member of her family, her dad, her stepmom, both of her sisters, especially her older sister, as well as her mom. And then on top of that, you also get this glimpse into her love life and how that operates and her inability to really connect with other people. And I thought this was so well done. Just layers and layers of metaphor and meaning all done in the really kind of ooky, spooky bowels of a super haunted house. And I absolutely adored this book. Black Sheep was my favorite novel of Rachel Harrison's before I read this, and I have determined that this is my new favorite book. The characters are so rich, they're so well developed, they're so complex, and I think for really just being very average people, to have characters with such a depth was so endearing and lovely. And at the same time, the book was very, very compelling, and it feels more like a family drama and almost borderline Anya Alborn style of familial horror versus just a haunted house story. And I think that's what works so well for me. This book really isn't super scary, but it's this concept of things aren't really what they appear that make it kind of get under your skin and feel really, really unnerving. And I just absolutely adored this book. please check out my full in-depth review, because I really go in very, very detailed into ways that I really resonated with this book and my thoughts on a lot of characters and their relationships. But this is definitely probably gonna, unless I read like 10 books that blow me away in the next 2 months, this will definitely be in my top 10 of the year. I was floored with how much I loved this book. Rachel Harrison really does not let me down. Alright, next up, Widow's Point, The Complete Haunting, a novel in collaboration with each other. We have Richard Shizmar and his son, W.H. Shizmar. So this was originally released as a short story in a collection back in 2017, I want to say, and then it was expanded upon into a novella. That novella short story combination is what makes up the first half of this book that is set in 2017. They then went back and rewrote parts that take place in 2025 and then released it as one cohesive novel. So in case you hadn't read the 2017 parts, it would make sense when you get to the 2025 parts. We're going to read the inside flap. This is a bad place. I don't think people are meant to live here. Longtime residents of Harper's Cove believe that something is wrong with the Widow's Point Lighthouse. Some say it's cursed, others claim it's haunted. During its construction in 1838, 3 workers were killed, including one who mysteriously plunged to his death from the catwalk. That tragic accident was never explained, and it was just the beginning of the terror. In the decades that followed, nearly 24 additional deaths occurred in or around the lighthouse, including cold-blooded murder, suicide, unexplained accidents, and disappearances, the slaughter of an entire family, and the inexplicable death of a Hollywood starlet who was filming a movie on the grounds. The lighthouse was finally shuttered tight in 1988, and a security fence was erected around the property. No one has been inside since, until now. Told across 2 harrowing incidents from 2017 and 2025, those who enter the Widow's Point Lighthouse, searching for supernatural proof and the next big thing, find themselves cut off from the outside world, and although no one has recently stepped foot inside the structure, they are not alone. In this remarkable collaboration, father and son writing team Richard and W.H. Shizmar combine forces to tell a terrifying ghost story that will make you think twice about what's waiting for you in the dark. Okay, so I love Chasing the Boogeyman. That is Richard Shizmar's big breakout novel. I mean, his collaboration with Stephen King is probably his big breakout novel, but in my opinion, his standalone work, Chasing the Boogeyman, that novel is incredible. One of the things that Richard Shizmar does so well is write stories rooted in reality. He makes the readers believe that these things are real. So it should be kind of a no-brainer that he was like, oh my god, found footage. We're gonna do found footage. And this reads like found footage. It really does. I know there's a lot of places that have tried to do the found footage epistle style before. Episode 13 is definitely one that I think of immediately, by Craig DeLuey. This one knocks it out of the park. You have audio tapes and a couple message boards on Reddit, which are whatever, and then a lot of cameras from many different angles that film crews set up. And I think it is done so well. 2017 really lays the groundwork for everything that happens in 2025. And while the 2017 chapters I do think are a bit scarier and spookier and more mysterious, the laying of the groundwork involves a lot of history of the lighthouse. It involves a lot of dragging out of the storyline to lay everything that's going to come back and be super terrifying. So that when you get to the 2025, and it really feels set in 2025 because we're basically following YouTubers. And I'm pretty sure we're following somebody who is based on the Paul brothers. And I know I said this in my last video, in-depth review on this. And so it's really interesting watching those types of figures and the arrogance of these young YouTube stars trying to conquer what is very much an extremely haunted house. If you're a fan of House of Leaves, I know I mentioned episode 13 earlier, so that kind of plays back into this. But if you're a fan of House of Leaves, and this is a really interesting take on that style of haunting. This idea of structures not always appearing as they actually are, and how they affect those who are trapped inside of it. I thought it was a really interesting and well done way to do a haunting story. And I found the characters, even though most are very unlikable, to be really engaging, and they kept me captivated on the page. And they fit in very well to a lot of the cliches and archetypes that they're based on. You have your skeptic, your diehard ghost hunter, your YouTube star boy and his crew, including the cameraman who really doesn't know why he's there, alongside of like the producer, also camera woman, who's really just kind of there to like keep a level head on your YouTube star. And it just blended so well together. And I had such a joy reading this book. It was so ooky, so spooky. I mean, that's like my trendy words of the video. But I really enjoyed it. It does get a little cosmic-y towards the end, and I'm not quite sure what the direction for that was. There are a couple moments in this novel that I felt like I really didn't understand exactly where Shizmar was taking it and what he was implying. And there's this whole like kind of email exchange interlude throughout the novel that I just was like, I feel like I'm missing something really big here and I don't know what it is. But overall, I thought this was fantastic. So this was a 4-star read for me, primarily because I just think Chasing the Boogeyman is better. I literally couldn't put that book down. I read like 300 pages in like literally one sitting. This is still fantastic. And I'm really happy that they combined both the 2017 and 2025 hauntings together because they're very, very different, but really allow the lighthouse to really be its own character, and I thought that was really, really well done. This is also great for if you still want to hold on to that Halloween setting. There's like a jack-o'-lantern that's kind of this like omnipresent force throughout the novel, and it's just really cool just like knowing that there's just all these like jack-o'-lanterns throughout the scene, because it is set in October. It is set in the week leading up to Halloween, which I loved, at least for the 2025 part. This is a fun one. This is a spooky one. If you enjoy Shizmar's writing, if you're looking for really good found footage done in novel style, this is it. This is really it. And you get so much history. You get history from like the mid 1800s all the way up to 2025 with this lighthouse, and it makes me wonder like, why isn't this real? Like, this sounds so cool and so terrifying, and not that I wish anything bad upon people, but it just feels like a really tangible, real haunted place. And that is just something that Shizmar is so good at doing, is just bringing fiction to reality and making the reader believe that it could exist. And I love that. So this is 4-star, fantastic read. Next up, Alma Katsu. She recently released Fiend, which is kind of her take on the story of Succession, if Succession involved a demon. Let's read the inside plot. This is a weird one. The Barisha family runs one of the largest import-export companies in the world, and they've always been lucky. Their rivals suffer strokes, inconvenient buildings catch on fire, earthquakes swallow up manufacturing plants, destroying harmful evidence. Things always seem to work out for the Barishas. They're blessed. At least, that is what Zeph, the patriarch, has always told his 3 children, and each of them knows their place in the family. Darden, as the only male heir, must prepare to take over as a keeper of the Barisha secrets. Maris's most powerful contributions, much to her dismay, will be to marry strategically, and Nora's job as the youngest is just stay out of the way. But when things stop going as planned, and the family blessings start looking more like a curse, the Barishas begin to splinter, each hatching their own secret scheme. They didn't get to be one of the richest families in the world without spilling a little blood, but this time, it might be their own. Alright, so I initially gave this book a 4-star. It's a very low 4 stars. The more I look back on this book, I feel like it's probably closer to a 3. And I say that because, well, one, I generally like Alma Katsu's prose. And I quite liked The Deep, which is her retelling of the tragedy of the Titanic as well as the Britannic. And she's probably most well known for her novel The Hunger, which is a story of the tragedy of the Donner Party, and her whole thing is she likes to take these historical events of tragedy and add supernatural elements to them. The Deep, it kind of worked because of the Victorian era fascination with like seances and ghosts and like parlor games of raising the dead. The Donner Party, not so much, because that really is a tragedy that I do not think you could add any elements to make that actual thing scarier, and it just kind of felt like the tragedy was cheapened by adding all of these supernatural monsters to it. This one's cool though, because this is just kind of the story of like a really rich family fighting out who's going to take over after their dad leaves with a demon. And I was so on board with this. I thought this had one of the strongest starts of anything I've ever read for Alma Katsu, and I was so on board with this until I realized that there's no way that the page length of this book could actually keep up with what was being laid down. And my biggest problem with this novel is it was so rushed. It lays so much groundwork, so much character development, so much room for just a large, rich, in-depth novel of kids battling it out to have power that they don't understand and aren't ready for. And then it just, like, goes from 0 to 100, kills all of the pacing, and it gives you a cool conclusion. It really does. Like, the story is there, but without any of the richness that the first half of the story had. I needed so much more character development. I needed so much more of an inside look into our 3 children, into their mother, especially their mother, because I was so, like, intrigued about who she was. So much more into the father, into the family history, into who the demon is, and then obviously getting into the big twist and reveal of everything. Because it's a good twist and it's an interesting twist, but it's something that it just came so fast that I felt like I was in, like, season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones, where I'm like, wait, slow down. We had such a good start. So the bones of this book are there. But oh my lord, it just needs so much more. It needed so much more. And once you get to, like, the midway point with the incident with Darden, is when it just, like, really went off the rails. And that was my biggest issue, is I just really, really wanted this to be something. And it just kind of felt like an idea that laid out a really cool concept for the first half, and then turned that concept into a short story or a novella for the second half. And it just could have been so much more. And again, I really enjoy Alma Katsu's prose, and I really liked the ideas that she had. She had so much going for, like, the mythology behind the demon, the history of the family, the intricacies of the family, and yet it didn't have any room to breathe to get to a conclusion in which I was like, oh my god, wow. You know? And again, I really have a hard time knocking the actual bones of the story, because I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was a great concept. I thought it was an author who had a vision for a beginning, a middle, and an end. But the beginning is the start of a 600 to 700 page doorstopper, and the second half of this book is like 150 pages that should have been the rest of that 500 pages. And that just, it broke my soul. It broke my soul, because this story really could have been told at a great pace and still been enormous and long and lengthy and really gotten to the meat of every single character, and it would have been so much scarier, and the twist would have been so much more devastating. And it saddens me deeply that we didn't get that. Also, Maris is such an unlikable character, and I, like, loved reading about her. She's just awful. Like, just truly, truly awful. And I feel like she's definitely supposed to be, like, Shiv Roy in Succession. And Nora's definitely supposed to be, like, Roman. And I liked that dichotomy. If you've seen Succession, phenomenal show. And I see that dichotomy and how it worked pretty well in this story. But I said this in my larger review, but these characters needed to be older. And I think that was another thing that bothered me, is I had a really hard time believing that these are the actions of 22-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 28-year-old. They all needed to be like 10 years old or 8 years older or something like that. And then this novel, I think, would have made so much more sense. But it crushes me because it was so close to being there. It's a phenomenal idea, and it's a really cool read. It left me wanting so much more, unfortunately. Alright, the next one I read is my nonfiction book. I'm going to go over this really, really quickly because it's not horror related at all. But I read Anna, the biography by Amy Odell. This is the biography of Anna Wintour, who is the editor-in-chief of Vogue, or she was until recently. Now she's, like, doing something else at Condé Nast. But I'm going to read the Goodreads blurb. This definitive biography of Anna Wintour follows the steep climb of an ambitious young woman who would, with singular and legendary focus, become one of the most powerful women in media. As a child, Anna Wintour was a tomboy with no apparent interest in clothing. But seduced by the miniskirts and bob haircuts of swinging 1960s London, she grew into a fashion-obsessed teenager. Her father, an influential newspaper editor, loomed large in her life, and once he decided she should become editor-in-chief of Vogue, she never looked back. Impatient to start her career, she left high school and got a job at a trendy boutique in London, an experience that would be the first of many defeats. Undeterred, she found work in the competitive world of magazines, eventually embarking on a journey to New York in a battle to ascend, no matter who or what stood in her way. Once she was crowned editor-in-chief of Vogue, in one of the stormiest transitions in fashion magazine history, she continued the fight to retain her enviable position, ultimately rising to dominate all of Condé Nast. Based on extensive interviews with Anna Wintour's closest friends and collaborators, including some of the biggest names in fashion, journalist Amy Odell has crafted the most revealing portrait of Wintour ever published. weaving Anna's personal story into a larger narrative about the hierarchical dynamics of the fashion industry and the complex world of Condé Nast. Anna charged the relentless ambition of the woman who would become an icon. This is a 4-star read for me. Anna is a very controversial figure, so whether you like her or hate her, she is still a woman in a very large seat and power in the media. And I love fashion history. I love learning about the fashion world. I read Vogue cover to cover every single month. So this was just definitely something that I wanted to read about. It's a really, really good biography. It doesn't paint Anna in a glowing light, and it doesn't paint her in the Devil Wears Prada negative light. It's very down the middle, and I thought it was a very fair biography of her. 4 stars, just because I don't know. I don't get crazy amounts of joy reading biographies, and I always do them by audiobook, so they just very rarely get 5 stars from me, but I quite enjoyed this one. For what it was, I thought Amy Odell had a really good angle to take on the story, and you got a really good glimpse on who Anna was and how she got to where she was. She's a very, very determined woman. I think does a good job too of showing the home life side of Anna versus just the business life side of Anna that we always see. And if you did like the Devil Wears Prada films, yeah, you're definitely gonna see the relationship between like Anna Wintour and Miranda Priestley, who's played by Meryl Streep. But fun read. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't need to waste too much time when it's not horror, but it was a fun biography. I appreciate Amy Odell for what she did. All right, last but not least, just filmed a review on this. This is called This Cursed House by Del Sandine. This is a debut novel. Congrats to Del Sandine. That's awesome. We're going to read the inside flap. I got this recently in Nightworm, so I knew nothing about it until it showed up. And it says, in the Southern Gothic horror debut, a young black woman abandons her life in 1960s Chicago for a position with a mysterious family in New Orleans, only to discover the dark truth. They're under a curse, and they think she can break it. In the fall of 1962, 27-year-old Gemma Barker is desperate to escape her life in Chicago, and the spirit she has always been able to see. When she receives an unexpected job offer from the Duchamp family in New Orleans, she accepts, thinking it is her chance to start over. But Gemma discovers that the Duchamp family isn't what it seems. Light enough to pass as white, the black family members look down on brown-skinned Gemma. Their tenuous hold on reality extends to all the members of their eccentric clan, from haughty grandmother Honorine to beautiful yet inscrutable cousin Fosette. Then, the shocking truth comes out. Gemma learns the Duchamps are cursed, and they believe only she can free them. As Gemma wrestles with the gift she's run from all her life, she unravels deeper and more disturbing secrets about the Duchamps. Secrets that stretch back over centuries. Secrets that bind her to their fate if she fails. I was so excited for this book. I love a period piece. I love a New Orleans setting. I love a cursed house. I love a mysterious family. I was so excited for this book. This one was such a disappointment. The first half was great. The first like 20% was great. I was really on board with it. Even though as I was reading it, it really felt like a copy and pasted version of the intro of The Witching Hour. Very similar concepts. Child is adopted, mysterious past, doesn't know where she's from, her adoptive parents die, something happens that brings her back to where she might be from, which lo and behold is New Orleans. Shocking, shocking. Mysterious family is there. The mysterious family know about her mother. The mother is put in a place where it's like, I don't quite understand why this happened, why there is this level of control being had. It's so very much synonymous to the intro to The Witching Hour, and then just falls apart after that. And I was okay with that. I was really kind of okay with it. I really kind of liked the 1960s setting and like the harsh reality of like segregation in the South. I was really on board and here for what this was laying out. And then it just took the setting away from New Orleans, set everything in a house isolated about 4 miles outside of New Orleans, and then just had a lead character who I don't think Sandine fleshed fully out. She feels like a completely different person in Chicago than who she is in New Orleans or right outside of New Orleans. She's surrounded by people who do not like her and has this weird moral ground where she just feels connected to people who treat her terribly. Whether it is the people in Chicago or it is the people in New Orleans, she really feels connected to people who do not treat her well. The problem is that she has the ability to like stand up for herself in like not so healthy ways in Chicago, but like allows herself to be basically trampled over in New Orleans. And She just was a very, very difficult lead to get a read on. She's then surrounded by truly awful people who for some reason I'm supposed to feel sympathy for, and yet Sandine does nothing to make me feel sympathy for these terrible people. And so then it's an entire novel about this woman who I'm really having a hard time connecting with, sympathizing with awful people that I, the reader, should feel bad for, but the book is laying out how horrible they are that I'm just like, I just don't care. So I spent the whole book questioning why I was reading about this woman helping these people when she really should just leave. Like, start and stop. Oh, they're mean to you, they're terrible to you, they treat you really badly, they're keeping all these secrets. Peace. Bye. End of story. And so I just thought it was a really weird novel that dragged on quite a lot because the whole crux of it was that our main character needed to stay with this family. And so all of these weird things kept coming up to give poor excuses for her to stay with the family, and I just did not buy it. I thought there were plot holes, I thought there were character development inconsistencies, I thought just a lot of like the workings of the curse didn't make sense to me, and just the common sense and actions of a lot of the characters just did not feel real. I do not think people would operate this way. There's a character named Agnes who at one point is leaving the house and asks Gemma to come with her, and even though Gemma really wants to, she says no, but I'll like find you later, and then they just like casually don't give either party ways to contact them, and then it's like a whole like hurdle of like, oh no, how am I gonna find this person? Like, it just had so many like moments that I was like, this wouldn't happen, this is not how people act. And there's no common sense here. And it crushed me because it had, again, like Fiend, it had a lot of potential to be really cool and creepy and scary and well done, and it had such an amazing potential for the setting. And it just kind of missed the mark every single time, which was a bummer for me. So this was a 2-star read. Again, I have a whole in-depth review on this, but I go really in-depth on spoilers in my review. And it's almost like a 30-minute video because I had a lot of pieces that I wanted to unpack with this novel. And again, I commend people for getting their debut novels out. I never like to give negative reviews, but I felt like this one read like a debut novel of an author who hasn't quite found her footing yet and hasn't quite found her ability to really develop characters in a way that makes sense with the narrative that she wants to tell. And so hopefully the next novel will be better because, again, there's groundwork there, there's creativity there. It is a unique curse, it is a unique haunting, it is a unique story, and it has a couple scenes that are really scary. There's a scene where Gemma goes into Fozette's bedroom and she opens the trunk at the foot of her bed and she finds something, and it's very Edgar Allan Poe-ish. It's very, very disturbing. It's probably the scariest image in the entire novel, and how that event comes to be when you think about it is even more terrifying. And it's this whole kind of fall of the House of Usher moment, and it was beautiful and scary. It was scary. It's a very disturbing image. And so there's a groundwork laid here that has the ability to bloom into something really, really amazing, but it's just not there yet. So this was a 2-star read for me. So sorry, this cursed house. Maybe in the future. Maybe in the future. But yeah, I had a good reading month. I had a 5-star, lots of 4 stars, 1 2-star, and even the 2-star I'm like not mad at. Like, it's not a bad book. It's just not a book at the standards that I am normally reading and giving 5 or 4 stars to. So that's all that is. It's really quite difficult to get a 1-star from me, and that book is definitely not a 1-star. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I am trying to post 2, hopefully 3 times every single week. And if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. And I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah!